Welcome to the McCave.
Hey, how you doing?
That's Manny, my faithful cameraman. We're still working on the format for this. This is our second installation. And today we'll be reading Daredevil. Picked up solely for its really cool cover and, is it Klaus or Klaus Jensen? I don't know, I like his art.
I think it's Klaus. Claus sounds like a English term. Or Santa Claus.
Santa Claus drew this one.
Let's just say Klaus.
Yeah, it's probably Klaus.
Klaus.
I don't know, but
whatever.
anyway.
Who the fuck cares? Anyway.
We got, this is another back issue that we picked up from those guys at the convention, the BOUTTA. And we also got some silly photographs done by Kevin McGee there. Might as well bring him up too.
Thank you.
Alright, so this story, I'm not going to do the thing where I read through it the whole time like it's storybook time. That takes too long.
40 fucking minutes.
I read this one in advance. And we start out, nice establishing shot here. And I like how it's like if you were to read a comic from today, these would all be like very realistic colors. So we would get like gray and brown, and like everything would be kind of like this. This is nice. Like it's still colorful without like making too much pop. Like we get Daredevil, we get where he's going, and the rest of it, while still colorful like blues and purples and greens, it's dulled enough to where these take our attention. So he's heading there to meet his friend who's the guard here, and he finds that there's some suspicious activity with this truck outside, and then he finds that the guard, his friend, has been shot, and they stole his lucky gun. And we find out, he was close with this guy, and the guy starts telling him, they stole my lucky gun. Did I ever tell you the story of my lucky gun? And he's like, yeah, about 20 times in his head to himself, So obviously, they've hung out a lot, and he's told him this story. And basically the story is, it was his father's gun, it's been passed down. He took it with him to Vietnam. He wound up being attacked by a guy who was about to throw a grenade at him, and basically the gun saved his life. But right as he gets to the part where he's about to be attacked with the guy with a grenade, he dies, so he doesn't finish the story. But, there wasn't anything that Daredevil could do to bring him to the hospital, so he's just kind of forced to sit there and let him die, and I liked how they had the little flat line. And then all of a sudden Daredevil takes his mask off and starts advertising candy. Just kidding. So we see the bad guys getting away with what did they steal? I'm sorry. For now we just know that they stole some cases of military equipment, and they're disguised as military guys. The one criminal drives off without the rest of them because they only needed one crate, so they leave the rest of them for dead. And Daredevil comes down, he beats them up, and I love this little sequence here. They run at him, he just hits the one guy, right down across his head, he falls. The other guy comes at him, and we see in the background that this guy just like stops and turns around to leave. Like he's like, I ain't having any of that.
He goes after him in the last panel.
Yeah, he jumps and he grabs him. He's like, where do you think you're going?
Ass shot, anyway.
And he has his staff against the back of his head, and he interrogates him, and he finds out that the one guy was kookier than the rest of them. And he just kind of flew off the handle, killed the old man, and left them behind. He ditched them, and he basically names this man Carmine Pesca as the one who ditched them in the truck and shot the guy. And he names the cruise ship that he's on, and that he's gonna rob diamonds off of the cruise ship or something like that, and he's gonna use whatever weapon that they stole.
Can I point out something real quick?
Sure.
I would just like to say how, like you were talking about earlier with the one shot. I'm not sure if this is the rules with Daredevil comics, but I've noticed like how you pointed out earlier, how there was like all those different colors that basically were dulled down and made him pop more. I don't know if that's a consistent thing, but it's like it seems like that everything in this comic is kind of like that. To where it's like, I mean, the camera sadly kind of dulls down that quality, but Daredevil's like really popping in this, like this entire page, really.
Yeah.
Like the characters even on the next page look a bit dull, and he's probably going to stick out again.
Red is just an eye-catching color, but they use that to their advantage, the way they use the other colors around it. And I think that's important to put the focus on the main character like that.
And it's pretty good. It's ingenious.
And so we see that Matt Murdock has gone on the cruise, and he basically tells this little fib to get away from being hit on by this one chick, and he says, "Well, I'm not married anymore. Actually, you know, my sixth wife was an oil heiress, and she recently passed away suddenly. Of course, I was acquitted." You know, he implies that the reason he's rich is because he keeps bumping off his wives or something. So that makes her go away. I thought that was kind of funny in a dark way.
Again, he's by the way also wearing like red brownish pants.
Yes. So even if you don't know that he's Matt Murdock, you kind of like
associate him with that color.
The guy that he's supposed to be keeping an eye on is right here, and he's talking to this chick here who's kind of really tall and lanky looking. I thought it was just the weird drawing at first, but apparently she's supposed to be like tall and lanky looking. And she's basically like, you know, what are you looking at? Nothing, I'm blind. She's like, oh, snap, sorry.
She makes that big...
She's like, oh my god.
I'm a gird.
And basically they start, they wind up kind of hitting it off a little bit, and she's a magician there that's performing on the cruise ship, and she has him participate in the magic act, and they use this little harness to make it look like he disappeared behind the curtain, because it just zips him up very quickly into the ceiling. And so she's like, I'll see you later, I have some stuff to take care of or whatever, and he's kind of keeping an eye out on the guy that he suspects, the Carmine guy, and then he hears that this missile is like headed for the radar equipment of the boat. He gets out of the way, it's messed up the radar equipment, the frequency starts messing with his radar that allows him to, his superpower that allows him to see despite being blind, which I thought was an interesting concept, like the little radio waves are messing up his own signals. So he's kind of just stumbling around, and he can't help anyone while this is going on, and these pirates rob the ship. They rob the diamonds and everything. And they get away with it because Daredevil is incapacitated. And the cover wasn't a total lie. We see Daredevil wielding a hatchet. He stole the fire axe, and he uses it to chop off the antenna and fix the signals again, so now he can see and everything. It's not entirely like this. Kind of makes it look like he's out in the woods somewhere, but
chop some heads.
Yeah, but at least a lot of the times with comics they don't even bother putting what happens on the cover in the book. But in chopping off the little thing, it's gonna accidentally land on the guy. And we see, Daredevil is a true hero because he doesn't, he's not out to kill this guy. He doesn't want to kill the criminal, especially since he doesn't know whether or not he's truly guilty. So he dives down and he straightens himself out so that he falls faster, and he uses his momentum to kick it out of the way. And he starts interrogating the guy, and the interrogation points toward the magician lady. It kind of indicates her, and we find out that it was in fact her. She was using the same holograms that she uses for her magic act to make it look like there is a giant pirate submarine, and she used the harness that she used to make Matt Murdock disappear in the magic act to smuggle her equipment and whatnot. And so Daredevil pops into her room. Alright, because there is no submarine, so she uses the harness to bring all the stolen goods up into her room without anyone seeing it, because it's a thin wire and everything. And so we get another cool fight scene here, and it's all a circular motion. but the camera stays static, but the entire thing is literally just Daredevil spinning around. It was really cool. He just kind of kicks and he carries the kick through.
It's awesome.
And he gets caught from behind, and he uses his feet to kick the guy around some, and he elbows him, breaks the grip, and he starts fighting the magician chick, and she turns out to be decently formidable. She's hopping around, and then she pulls out the gun, because it turns out that she used her all of her magician experience and whatnot. She disguised herself as the Carmine guy to implicate him, and she used her tall and lanky structure, she purposely picked someone that was kind of tall and lanky like she was, so she can impersonate them better. Turns out she's actually the crazy murderer who just kind of flew off the handle, killed the old man, and left her henchman for dead. And she pulls out the stolen gun from the old man, and Daredevil says, "Wait a minute, you can't use that gun, it's gonna backfire." And she's like, "I'm not falling for that," and she shoots it, and she dies because it backfires.
It's lucky.
He explains that he wasn't lying at all. He knew this because he had heard that story a million times. What happened was, the old man who was his friend that got shot, he finishes the story basically. He says that the guy came at him with the grenade. He couldn't bring himself to shoot the man, but then the grenade went off prematurely, and the shrapnel went into the gun. So the shrapnel would have killed him if the gun hadn't been there. So the gun saved his life, but not in the way that you would think. And that's how he knew it would backfire, because the shrapnel was still in there. He just filed it off and just carried it around as a lucky charm. Because she doesn't listen to him, she's dead now.
There's a joke in there somewhere.
There is. So I thought that was a really cool little story.
Yeah, it was.
And
I enjoyed it. I'm just hearing it from you.
yes. And I definitely recommend getting the full experience. I definitely watered it down a lot. I didn't want to be droning on and on like the last video.
You did good.
So that's Daredevil number 193.
Come on.
To give you those credits,
Daredevil.
The credits are Larry Hama was the writer, Klaus Jensen was the artist, and then it had the editing team of Denny O'Neil and Jim Shooter. So there was some great talent on the book, and you can definitely see just reading through it. And the great thing about it is, this one's just a one shot. You can pick this up. You don't need the one before it. You don't need the one after it. So I don't know what. This is like way shorter than the last one, and we don't really have like a system. We just kind of critique the other one. I don't know, I guess to compare it to Captain Canuck, there wasn't just two guys working on it. They had the editor to make sure that there wasn't any grammatical errors.
Yeah, and then the fight scenes were a lot smoother.
Yes.
Very easy to go through.
Yes, and as you can see, they used the panels that they used were used more effectively. These are still pretty skinny panels for a fight scene, but instead of trying to cram in all the action, they were used creatively. They used the space creatively, both instances. Nothing was tight and close up or wasting space. Everything was done effectively.
Yeah, they did a pretty good job.
Even here where it looks like it's kind of empty, we see that she's escaping. And then they use the sound effect. And then they use a word balloon. No space is wasted at all.
Yeah, they did good. They did pretty good.
So I guess that's where the critique part comes in. We kind of compare how to do it right, I guess.
I suppose.
This is an instance of not really any problems whatsoever.
You want to just end it here?
I guess I don't really know how to end this. The last one ended just with us being silly. We didn't forget the music this time. I don't know, I guess if you can find it, I recommend adding it to your collection. That's pretty much all I have to say about it.
Alright, goodbye.
This one wound up actually being good. Like there wasn't too much to critique about it, honestly.
Yeah, I liked how it was it's like a come back to me.